Hey, thanks for joining me. Let's continue on with Gen-13. We're on issue 8. I recently just reviewed issues 3, 4, and 5, which were kind of the kind of a J. Scott Campbell adventure kind of inspired storyline that seems like it was something, if I had to imagine, because I don't know how it actually went down, but it feels like it's something that Campbell probably kind of wanted to do outside of the kind of storytelling that the previous storyteller writers, being Jim Lee and Brandon Choi, the normal Wildstorm bullshit stuff that they're normally doing, none of that stuff was interesting. But J. Scott Campbell has this kind of a Steven Spielberg type of Indiana Jones, James Bond adventure aesthetic that he kind of really likes. And it really felt like those issues 3, 4, and 5 were inspired by what Campbell would want to do. So I imagine that I could totally believe it if someone were to say that he went in and said, I want to have some control over the story. I have some ideas of what I would like to do. And being smart, they went along with it. And those were fantastic issues. And like I said in those reviews, those were the issues that finally got me on board with J. Scott Campbell as an artist. I just hadn't been following his work because I'd seen it and I thought it was okay, but I wasn't really into it. So I wasn't collecting anything. I still haven't read issues 1 and 2 of the Gen-13 regular series. I've never seen them. And I did eventually get the mini-series, and I reviewed it here recently on the channel in the last year or so. And, you know, Campbell was coming along, and he was learning page by page, issue by issue, just getting better and better every time. But it took me a minute to get on board with his art. Excuse me. And it was that issue 3 and the cover that made me want to pick it up. And I've never turned back. I've never looked back. I've been a fan of Campbell's work in the biggest way ever since. So I did issues 3, 4, and 5, as that's a continuing story. So now we're on issue 8. Well, where's 6 and 7? Those were issues drawn by Jim Lee, which I have covered on the channel quite a long time ago. And if you ever wanted to see an example of how a specific artist and a specific aesthetic makes or breaks a book, go look at those issues that Jim Lee did. There was, you know, Jim Lee he's Jim Lee. I mean, what can you say about him that everyone doesn't know? Regarded and revered as one of the best comic book artists of all time. He's still drawing to this day. He is the artist that I've probably had the single most long-standing kind of love, especially as a teenager, for his work. But his work kind of lost something as time has gone on. And he works in the right place in the right ways for sure. But when you go from J. Scott Campbell drawing and the style and vibe that he puts into his books, and then you put Jim Lee on it, and then a story written by Brandon Choi, holy Jesus Lord, were they just like the worst. Like it just went from something unique and fresh and new and kind of modern and vibrant to just standard cliche Wildstorm bullshit nonsense that no one remembers with fondness in terms of the story. No one goes back and goes, do you remember those issues of Gen-13? How awesome was that story? It's just Jim Lee drew them. And Jim Lee drew like Jim Lee, but it just everything that was interesting about the Gen-13 characters, the life was just sucked out of it. And so now we're back with with J. Scott Campbell, Brandon Choi writing, and it just lists Brandon Choi as writer. And going through this, again, I don't know the truth, so I am admitting that I am guessing. But I get the feeling that since it doesn't list Campbell as any kind of story assist, let me double check. Oh no, I take it back. Well, okay, story, Brandon Choi, J. Scott Campbell, and Jim Lee. Okay, so it only says Brandon Choi here. But you can kind of, in my opinion, feel like here's the element where Brandon Choi is involved, and anything that's fun, you can tell that's Campbell getting involved. And anything that's just boring, cliche, lifeless nonsense, that's everyone else. It does start out with Grunge, And if you know anything about pop culture and shit like that, you got Grunge here in like a martial arts pose, and then the reflective mirrors behind him, reminiscent of the end scene of the Bruce Lee movie Enter the Dragon. And there's, as is always the case, there's so much fucking dialogue that doesn't need to be there. Brandon Choi, like, he's given McFarlane a run for shit that doesn't need to be on the page. It doesn't need to be there. But Grunge is going around. There's some time jumps going back and forth where we're in one place, like it says now, but then we'll get to another place where it'll be like then, meaning sometime in the past. Grunge is looking around, being his normal goofy self. He gets punched by some giant creepy creature, and then this thing's got a little smaller figure that crawls out of it as Grunge is on the ground. I mean, I believe that this book is setting up, if I remember, yeah, it's setting up the secondary title, Deviate, which I tried reading. I gave it a couple of issues, and I was not interested. It feels like they were trying to do Gen-13 Take 2, but instead of the good guys, they were going to be the bad guys, and it did not work. I think Warren Ellis wrote it, and if you know me, I'm a big fan of Warren Ellis, but that's one of those things where I'm like, this shit is not working. It just was not there. I hope I've got that right, that Warren Ellis wrote it. I mean, I'm not happy to say that he wrote something I didn't like, but truth is truth. But Deviate never stuck for me. I tried it, and I'm like, no, it sucks. It doesn't work. All of the success of Gen-13 is J. Scott Campbell's art. So yeah, Grunge got his ass knocked out. So these creatures, the one crawls out of the other. They tie up his leg with this chain and start dragging him. So there's humor in kind of the way that's drawn, kind of a cartoony, lighthearted vibe. It works really well. And so he's being dragged away, and he says, "You're jacking my due." And then the bottom border panel kind of like bubble fades in the bottom corner to then show that we're going back in time. And they're pointing out that Grunge got his hair cut. For all the books leading up to this, he had long hair. And let's be honest, it looked kind of stupid. I mean, it was kind of appropriate for the era, but even they were like, we got to get rid of this long hair thing. This sucks. So they gave him a cropped hair thing. Roxy's like, oh, you look kind of awesome. This book is published in 90-something. 96. So there's kind of an interesting thing here. Roxy, free fall. Grunge is like, what do you think? She's like, well, it's different. Kind of makes you look like one of those international male models. And he's like, huh? What does that mean? And she says, a bit of a gay bot. I'm like, wait, what? She's like, because you got short hair, you look like an international male model, which means you're gay. And he's like, really? She's like, hey, that's cool. I mean, we're in San Francisco. Of course, you're saying that with an earshot of Rainmaker, who has been established as at least bisexual, if not gay. I don't know what it ultimately was. But, Roxy's like, oh, sorry, Sarah, was I being politically incorrect? She's like, no, Roxanne, just stupid and insensitive as usual. So, oh, well, excuse me, Mrs. PC. So now we see a little shot here of Lynch, the leader of the team, busted arm in a cast. And I was like, when did he break his arm? But then he kind of explains it to here. He's like, I'm proud of the way you all worked together with Cray to rescue me from Le Gauche and his men, which was Death Blow number 20 and 21. I want to go dig up issues 20 and 21 of Death Blow, because I'm pretty sure that's Tim Sale drawing it, and see how he draws Gen-13. I like Tim Sale, but I did not really care for him on his Death Blow run. But considering how, in my opinion, the limited scope with which Gen-13 ever actually worked, and I've said it 1,000 times, I'll say it again, it's only because of Campbell's art and the kind of fun aesthetic that he brings to it. Death Blow had exactly none of that, and neither does Tim Sale. So I bet the Gen-13 characters probably were laughable. But I can't remember. I know I've got them. I read Death Blow For some reason, it was just one of those books I just collected forever. But anyway, I guess that's how he got his arm broke. So, you know, they're walking around, and Roxy, she's still yapping on about how some people can't take a joke. Lynch is telling everyone to shut up. But then Roxy kind of looks back behind her and notices that there's a face of someone that she kind of recognizes from nightmares. So they point, and no one sees what she sees. And they're like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, he was just there. Gotta say, artistically, it's a really good face. Campbell's come a long way. This has still got a cartoony, kind of animated look to it. It doesn't look like a Jim Lee clone thing that was going on so much at Wildstorm. But it's gotten away from that wonky, rubbery style that he used to have when he started, which is what kind of turned me off. I wasn't interested, but he's come a long way in a few issues. He's so good. This great shot of this down angle of a bunch of people on a city street. Campbell can do it all. He was hyper talented from day one. So now we're jumping back again to the modern time frame, because we started out with Grunge getting attacked. That was now. And then this whole scene with the hair was in the past. Now we're back into modern times. So Roxy's somewhere, the Tunnel of Love. She's getting into this boat. I guess they're looking around. There's this creepy, like, young girl up here with pigtails and a bear. She jumps down on top of Roxy. She says, my name's Phobia, and though I may look like a little girl, I'm the scariest thing you'll ever meet, especially when I can bring your worst fears to life. Okay, sure. So I'm just looking at this, trying to track whose legs are what down here. I got kind of lost. Anyway, now we go back in time. Roxy's waking up. Her and Caitlin, they're in bed in T-shirts and their hot underwear and their bare legs. You got to have the sex appeal. They got to be fuckable. Remember, we can't sell a comic book with hot girls if they're not fuckable. So they're comforting her. You know, she's having these horrible nightmares, and you know, Roxy's saying, I was having dreams about these creepy things that I swear that I thought that I saw today. And so the live-in maid of the team, she's like, Rainmaker says she swears that she saw him following us today while we were sightseeing in town. And so the live-in maid girl, she says, did you see him, Sarah? And she's like, someone who was never there? Like, no, didn't see whatever she thinks she was seeing. So then we're getting back into Roxy's dreams. This is a pretty awesome layout. You know, Campbell portrays emotions really well. She's sad. Everyone's got looks of concern. And then this creepy dude's face, really well drawn. I want to make sure I shout out, let me double check in the credits page, that it's only, well, no, Alex Garner on inks with Richard Friend on ink assists. There's almost no better inkers you could get on books than Alex Garner and Richard Friend. I mean, you know, Scott Williams. There's several other inkers, Bat, Joe Weems, but those guys are over at Top Cow. But such clean, slick art and such great inks all over this stuff. Like, again, pairing the right penciler with the right inker. And Alex Garner was just a fantastic inker. So slick and clean. And Richard Friend has been nothing but good and always has been good. And he's kind of quiet on social media these days. It's kind of a bummer. I was really enjoying his channel. He was showing his works in progress and did video reviews and stuff like that. Seems like a really neat guy, and haven't seen him post in a long time. I hope it's just because he's busy and working and making money, but I hope he comes back. Anyway, but great inkers, both of them. So now, so it's like we're getting kind of the idea that every one of the team members are getting attacked or scared or frightened or put out of commission. Same thing with the stupid guy who catches on fire. I can never remember his name. He's going through this, I guess they're in some kind of funhouse area. It didn't seem to establish that, but maybe it doesn't need it. But there's a big tub of water, and there's like a girl made of water in there. He's like, a beautiful girl breathing underwater. I'd better call the others. And she's like, come to me, draw closer. It's like, you can talk. It kind of seems like she can, like he's kind of under a spell a little bit. I like the lighting on that face there and the coloring. That's really working really well. So then she says, foolish man, nymph can do so much more than that. And so then the big jug of water she's in just explodes. And then unnecessary fucking text box. God, this is Spawn level of stupid. Let me read it to you. Like the sirens of mythology, the nymph thrives by luring unsuspecting men to their doom. But this time, instead of shipwrecks poor, unfortunate sailors at sea with her call, the nymph uses her elemental control of water to shatter the thick plexiglass walls of the dunk tank. Guess what? Don't need any of that. You can tell. The fucking water shattered and it's taken out the guy who catches on fire. He's like, oh my God, it's a trap. I gotta warn the others before it's too late. Arrgh. I don't know that a almost splash page was necessary for this one shot. You know, I don't think it continues on the next page. It doesn't. I mean, Campbell makes it look great, of course, but you could have this panel just be in the top half and then have him lying on the ground unconscious and have the evil girl actually saying some dialogue that matters. Eliminate these text box of Spawn level nonsense bullshit that doesn't need to be there. This is, I 100% think that if J. Scott Campbell was in charge of all of this, this would read so much better and none of this extra shit would be there. That's Brandon Choi. Going back in time, a guy who catches on fire wakes up. He's like, hey, Sarah, what's up? We missed you at dinner tonight. She's, oh, hey, I thought you were all going dancing. And he's like, not my scene. Where you disappear off to? And so, of course, we got to get the sexy shot of the hot girl with the booty shot. I'm all for it. She's like, since when did you become my father? Look, sometimes I just need to be alone once in a while. We all need our space. He's like, well, excuse me. I didn't mean to crash your party. I was just trying to strike up friendly conversation. She's like, Bobby, I didn't mean. So they're having, like, childhood drama bullshit. You know, trying to build in some interpersonal conflict. Sure, whatever. Campbell's art's just making it look awesome. Oh, meanwhile, Grunge interrupts him. Yo, Sarah, Bobby, we got some troubles or some shit. So now we're going, that was the then, now we're back to the now. I gotta say, I really, really like this shot of Rainmaker. I'm not sure how much I love her costume. Like, none of the costumes of the Gen-13 characters are, like, unique or iconic. None of them. Like, what does Roxy have? She has, like, a jumpsuit with bare legs and, like, a jacket. Grunge has, like, spandex pants and boots. Burnout, right? I hear Burnout and I think of it like that's a Transformers name. I know he just saw it. I like to call him Guy Who Catches on Fire. He's in a full head-to-toe spandex outfit with some weird superhero pattern designs that are boring. Rainmaker here, I mean, she's got one bare leg from thigh to knee, and then one fully covered leg, and then big old leathery moccasin boot things to, like, oh, she's Native American, so they gotta be, you know, we gotta have some ethnic accuracy of some type. That aside, I love the pose. I love the kind of subtle body language and gesture of her, like, moving these, whatever these tassel things are. The face, the hair, I don't know what. Something about that whole shot just works. I really dig it. So lots of text. I'm like, I was just getting bored. I'm like, God, I was so invested in the previous issues that Campbell did, and then I got bored with the Jim Lee ones. But now we're back to Campbell, so I'm kind of interested. But the text, just nonsense. But she runs into some creepy guy, the albino, and I guess he can control snakes or animals or something. Whatever. It's like, I'm like, I don't know why, but I'm super not into this story. I'm just kind of digging the art. But each one of our heroic characters is getting taken out by some new villain that we haven't seen before. Then, so we go back in time. All right, yeah, this is where the little twerp said we'd find Cat. So I guess I missed, maybe because I was speeding through the text, where Caitlin got captured somewhere. Yeah, there's no telling where Kat got to. So just somewhere, sometime, at some point, Caitlin Fairchild disappeared. And so they find out that it's supposed to be here at this circus area. They're like, all right, well, we're here. So this is probably a trap. So let's go in and go do some heroic shit. So Lynch, with his fucking broken arm, is coming along. He sees like a shadow shape that kicks him in the back of the skull, knocking his ass down. I don't know if we were really supposed to be surprised at who mysterious girl here kicking him in the back of the head is. or maybe it's kicking him in his ass. I don't know. He's on the ground, and she picks his head up and slams it on the ground. You're like, oh, that looks just like Fairchild. I wonder who that could be. So now we get to cut back to all these villainous people who just took out the Gen-13 crew. Here they all are. Water Girl's got guy who catches on fire in a bubble prison. I don't know. Grunge is chained up and upside down. Roxy's just on the ground crying. Rainmaker's tied up by Snake Person. And he's saying something like, I need your Gen Actives. I need Gen Actives with your abilities. In his revenge against Damocles. I'm like, isn't Damocles one of the villains in the boring Wildstorm universe? Fucking Wildcats and Stormwatch books going on. Like, again, it's just the boring shit that we don't care about. These characters have so much more potential. Just let Campbell do it. Yeah. But all the kids are caught. And then, oh, wait, the final piece to the puzzle, there's Lynch, and oh, shit, look, it's Fairchild, but she's been turned evil. She's got the evil look on her face. She's got the freshly fucked hair. I learned that from a girlfriend. She was an ex-stripper, and she's like, yeah, the next morning I always have my freshly fucked hair. I'm like, okay, that's all right. Good to know. But Kate Fairchild, she's turned evil somehow, some way. All right, well, she's kind of the only character I've ever thought was really kind of interesting in the book. Meanwhile, cut to interlude. 1 week ago, bunch of people talking, and then this is the Deviate team. Frostbite, Powerhouse, Copycat, Evo, and Sublime. And they just want Lynch dead. And so here is, oh yeah, it's Ivana and whoever the douchebag other guy is. I forget. Again, these are like the most boring villains. Or, you know, there's an argument to be made for some of the most boring villains, especially considering how much fun the Gen-13 characters can be. But now there's this whole new team. And this is the Deviate crew. Again, I read a couple, 2 or 3 maybe at most, of their actual own title. And I don't remember anything about it. And that's kind of unfortunate. Like when you've read it and you're like, nope, nothing stuck. Not a thing. Campbell makes it look fucking awesome. Everything tilted, super tilted on the side. Good poses, body language, you know. I can't help but wonder, like, how much of Campbell's heart was in this, because I'm just projecting the shit. I'm just projecting all over the place. But I just imagine Campbell has like so many other ideas to make this book fun, and he has to wade through the bullshit of the storylines of everything else that's going on. And I'm like, all right, this next book, these characters, I don't know if he designed them or someone else did, but they need to introduce these new characters in a very popular book so that then they can spin them off into their own book and get that going. Like, it's marketing. It's smart. But when everything becomes so boring, like, who cares? You can't take something that's awesome and just keep spinning it off endlessly and keep the unique thing that makes it fun and awesome intact. I'll cite an example. Star Wars. Star Wars is dead. Remember when Star Wars is awesome? I can barely remember. Seems a distant memory. But they keep making more and more fucking garbage, and it's just done. Epilogue. So we get the pirate guy from the cool 3 issues, issues 3, 4, and 5. He's on his boat. He goes to, looks like Waterworld, and hits up a guy. This is maybe the Mariner or something like that. And he's like, yo, what's up, motherfucker? Son, I ran into a certain Caitlin Fairchild. What's up? And he's like, oh, shit, you saw my daughter? So introducing the concept that Fairchild's father is still alive. He's out there, and he doesn't know he has a daughter, or he's never been part of her life, or who knows. I know that's all Team 7 stuff. I kind of don't remember because it's super not interesting. Anyway, end of book. Yeah, the other issues were so much more interesting when Campbell was in charge. I mean, I say he was in charge, but again, I'm just guessing that he had much more input on this is where I want them to do. This is where I want them to go. This is something that would be awesome and fun. And then they get through those stories and they're like, okay, but Mr. Lee and Mr. Choi are driving this car and you're going to go where we want. You can sit in the back seat and kind of, you know, tell us what you want to listen to on the radio, but we're driving. And it just starts to become boring. And it really, really sucks. And we'll get to soon enough issue 9, continuing the story. But this entire issue was drawn by Humberto Ramos, which I have learned to appreciate in the years that came. But I was not into his shit here. And it's good, but it's not J. Scott Campbell. Again, it's that magical kind of formula that makes it work. But Ramos draws the entire issue 9, which introduces the Gen-13 characters. And I'm pretty sure he drew DV8. And then issue 10 is a fucking crossover of Fire from Heaven. So again, we have to deviate from the stories of the characters we're actually interested in to get storylines of all this other nonsense that was going on in the Wildstorms books that is so boring. And so we go from issues 3, 4, and 5, which are awesome, to boring Jim Lee shit 6 and 7, to like it just diminishing returns of awesomeness. Like, what is your guys' problem? Like, this was a runaway hit. And it's like they weren't expecting it to be as big a hit as it became. And so they all of a sudden were like, oh my God, this is the superstar. It's kind of like over at Top Cow when Witchblade become the superstar book. My memory is that as the titles went on into future issues, they gave more and more, it feels, creative control to Campbell, and it became once again a fun book that was a joy to read. But man, they really reached a peak, and then they suddenly just like ran it right off the cliff and had to do some course correcting, it seems. So Campbell's art, always worth the price of admission. This cover's fantastic. I mean, hot, sexy picture of her right up front. I love all the faces there. Creepy bad guy, you know. The story inside, like, not that great. It's fine. It's just fine. Anyway, Gen-13, you know, lots of potential, and it occasionally reaches the potential, but then the people in charge, like I said, just run that car right off the cliff, and Campbell has to come along like Superman and save him and put him back on the road. Anyway, that's all I've got for Gen-13 number 8. Thanks for joining me as always. I really appreciate it. I will see you next time.